Today was pretty eventful. It was frustrating. Um, I've got to start this off by flashing back to 2021. That year, and I actually talked about them in my streams at the time. I didn't mention them by name, but I don't care anymore. That year, I worked for Pizza Hut. And this was one of my first jobs. I was really excited. Um, and the first couple of days were me going over the different procedural stuff you do as an employee, right? How to make the pizzas, a lot of computer-based stuff where you're just sitting in front of a screen for most of your shifts, taking in the training material. And at the end of that, I was excited to actually begin working in the kitchen. Now, my first day of working in the kitchen, and technically my fifth day working there, but it's still the first one as an official employee. The manager, who when he hired me, saw my resume, saw that I had not done this type of work before. He even said this is an easy job. Got so upset by me not knowing how to do things on this inaugural day of working there that he threatened to fire me. He said, if you don't improve by next time, we're going to let you go. And I just want to preface this, or I guess emphasize this. He threatened to fire me on my first day. It was technically the fifth one, but it was the first one of actually working in the kitchen. So your first day of actually working there, you're threatened to be gotten rid of. And when this happened, I took it in stride. So, okay, let me try to learn this stuff. And he admitted that by my sixth day, or the first day after that, I had improved. They gave me about 3 shifts that week. And then the week after, they gave me no shifts. And then I worked one more time. And then they told me the day after that I was fired. So I improved, but then still got fired 2 weeks later anyway. So it didn't even make a difference in the long run. Now, after this, I worked at a retailer, and I also talked about how goofy they were, and how at this place, basically, if you're the cashier, you become Jesus. You become the person who is blamed for everything. The store doesn't have milk. Well, I'm giving the cashier 1 star on their customer review. The store doesn't have this other item I'm looking for. 1 star. Oh, my coupon expired. 1 star. And when I worked there, they had me go into this meeting where they said, hey, if you don't improve by next time, it was a pretty similar thing. And I tried to work there and smile, even though I couldn't because this was during the virus, so you had this mask covering your face. But they got rid of me there too. And I remember with both of these different jobs, feeling like I had done all that I could do and being mostly frustrated at just not having a job anymore, even though this was during a time where I had the safety net and I had someone that was going to be there to assist me, so it wasn't like, oh man, I'm doomed now that this place has done this to me. But I really walked away from both of those experiences being very frustrated that I had tried to, improve or take criticism just to get tossed out anyway. And I promised myself that if another job ever tried to do if you don't improve by next time, we're letting you go, I was going to get up and just walk away. Just don't even try to play this dangling a carrot in front of your face game by an employer who in all likelihood just wants to get rid of you, but wants to, give you this supposed ultimatum because at least in their mind they can convince themselves we gave him a chance. So the next place I worked for that decided to continue this trend, although I will say the second one, I still don't want to really name them because the manager there, I could tell, was kind of like forced into what she did, whereas the guy from the first place just a douchebag. So I started working for a delivery driver company. And most delivery driver jobs I've seen are full-time, right? They have people working for like 10 hours, 4 days a week, or, 5 days a week, 8 hours. But I very rarely have seen one where it's not a full, committed, consistent schedule. And the first clue of weirdness from this place came from it being part-time initially, but if they like you, they're going to possibly bring you on full-time. And when I was doing my interview, and I guess the training, which is, again, more written stuff, not actually being behind the wheel, they mentioned that they don't give people uniforms until they've been working there for about a month because they've had so many people who they start working there and then quit or get fired in the first 2 or 3 weeks, so it just became a waste of money. And the assumption I made before having my first actual day of working there about 2 weeks ago was that I was going to be paired with someone and be able to learned from them as we delivered stuff to places. That is not what happened. They put me behind the wheel. They got very upset with me when I was not, I guess, following some kind of procedure that I had no way in hell of knowing about. And then during the period where they again left me alone, unattended, it took me about 30 or 40 minutes to find a somewhere to deliver something because I got confused by the address. And I would say the first day was a disaster, but I said, hey, look, it was day one. I have never done this before. They know that, of course, but I'm going to try on my second day to improve. And I was scheduled for 4 days back to back. What ended up happening was that they deleted me from the next 3 days, and they delete you at the last minute. They have you keep driving over there, wasting gas, and you pull up in the parking lot and they say, hey, don't bother coming in. And the next time I worked was 4 days later on a Sunday. And I went there, and this time there were two guys that came to pick up stuff from me as the shift dragged on. But whereas it took me, like an hour to deliver one thing because of how hard it was to find whatever, that did not happen during the next instance. I got about half of the stuff done, and even the guy who was working as the manager on that day acknowledged that I had improved from the first day. For the next 2 weeks, I don't get any shifts scheduled, and then they start to schedule me for 3 days. Today, you'll see when you see this will be Friday, but Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and they put up 3 to 8, which is like weird because I didn't even know they did half shifts for delivery jobs. I don't know how the hell that works, but they switched it back to the times that it was for the first 2 days I was there. So I go up there today, and they're in a different place from where they normally meet at. I just kind of follow the procedure, but they start calling names of like, hey, you're going to pick this up and go over here. And one of the managers calls me to, I guess, have this aside with me. I should also mention that during the second day, I was chewed out by the owner, who said they called me 20 times. I didn't answer. And when you get distracted or have trouble, they have to leave their routes. And that's not fair. And I feel like saying what's not fair is having someone who's inexperienced with something get thrown out into the middle of this stuff with no preparation and then being surprised and they can't do it as well as the other people that have worked there longer. But I digress. So I get pulled aside by one of the managers today, and they tell me, the owners are really worried, and they feel like you're not, maybe this isn't for you. And I say to her, you're aware this is I've only worked here for 2 days, right? I've only had 2 shifts since I started working here 3 weeks ago. And it's like, oh yeah, but other people have been able to learn it as well in this time, and I'm going to give you a route, but if you don't improve by after this time, I think they're. And when I hear this in my mind, I start thinking of Pizza Hut and the other place, and their little manager sits you down and warns you that if you don't improve by the end of this next shift, you will be out of a. And I let her finish speaking, and after she did her. So it's not us, it's you speech, I just got in my car and drove away. As I said, I am not going to drive myself crazy trying to work to the extent of one of these places. And I'm going to also say this. I said that part-time jobs are a cancer. They are just something that spreads and infects an employee's ability to get something out of the job like a virus. At Pizza Hut, they were giving me 3-hour shifts, I think twice or 3 times a week. And what I said was that it's really crazy to have an employee who you want to learn something in a very short number of days, and then get mad when they don't know how to do it, even though they've only worked there for a total of, again, a single-digit number of days. I was at Pizza Hut for a calendar month, right, a 30-day period, and only had 9 shifts. So less than 2 weeks of work. And remember, those 9 shifts are not 8 hours each. They're like 3, 4, whatever. And I said, to me, it seems like you're setting someone up to fail when you barely use them anyway, and then try to toss them out, or do toss them out after just a handful of shifts. If you don't count the 4 days of me doing stuff on the computer, that means I only worked for Pizza Hut for, let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so about 5 days before getting fired. And I only worked at this place for 2 days before they were like started giving me the preemptive warning of, oh, you'll be gone. And you know, somebody will write something stupid in the comment section. Why didn't you just work today? And then if they got rid of you, then so be it. Listen, I have seen myself work at places again and do this routine of, oh, I'm gonna try harder today because if I don't, and I'm sorry, it doesn't make any sense to try as hard as you can with the job and then be out of it the next day. Like that just doesn't add up to me as a practical thing for me to have to do or put up with. And I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not going to sit here with this carrot dangling in front of my face to try and get that 100 or whatever dollars today and then be out of it altogether after that day because I didn't drop off the specific amount of stuff on day 3. And that's really the issue here. I truly believe that with all of these different jobs, if I were given shifts back to back to back, most of the stuff could be learned or at least performed to a degree that was meeting their quota. Like, I think that, you know, that first day, again, was terrible, right? It had a whole hour to deliver something. But, again, by day 2, that wasn't an issue anymore. Delivered half of the stuff on my own before they cut me off. And this was even acknowledged as an improvement over the first day. And also, it has to be said that the way they made it appear was that you would work 4 days in a row. So you could take what you learned from the day before and then translate to the next day. But instead, what you ended up getting was one shift, then 4 days later, one shift, then like 8, 9, 10 days later, one shift. And what ends up happening is that it becomes harder to retain things because the amount of times you're used by the job are so spaced out that you're not able to constantly go back to it. But of course, that doesn't register to them. But what I really get sick of is when I explain stuff to people and it's like it falls on deaf ears. You got Jem in the comment section of my video talking about being at a new job is very demanding. You have to fake it till you make it. I know it's a bit unreasonable. Unfortunately, that's the reality we lived in. What the hell was I supposed to fake if I only have worked somewhere 2 days and they want me to be at the level of skill of someone who's been there for months or years? I don't understand how I can be reasonably expected to perform to the degree of a veteran employee in just a couple of days. But again, they also know that. So what I discovered in working at Pizza Hut and then at this other place is a policy that I've termed hire to fire, where a company will hire a whole bunch of people and give them an extremely unreasonable amount of time to become proficient in whatever they're being tasked with doing. And at even the slightest mistake, or if they're not performing to the degree that you'd like, and again, usually a single digit number of days or shifts rather, they will toss you out. So again, worked at Pizza Hut for 5 days, technically 9 before they're like this. Was with this retailer for about a month before they did the same thing. And then over here, you know, I quit, but if I had stayed and done this 3rd day, they would have just thrown me out anyway. Over the last week or so, I've been having a resurgence of depression, because I know that with this job and with other ones I've had, I've tried as hard as I can. This is not my first job. This is not my 5th job. I don't even think it's my 10th job. But what's a recurring theme is what I call almost like an axis of evil, to borrow a phrase from Bush 43. You have jobs that either won't hire you because they don't like your unpopular color. You know, some of them will try to spin it other ways, but that's a big deciding factor. A lot of these places are run by one group or another. And of course, that also can play into hire to fire as well. You have jobs that if you get hired by them, they barely give you enough hours, which is what we ran into at this place, where you're talking about getting scheduled for, 4 8-hour shifts, and then that somehow gets cut down to 1. Then you have to pick up something that somebody didn't want the day after your shifts were supposed to be completed. So you're driving back up here for 4 days for 1 day of work, and it's just stupid stuff like that. Or you have the other component, which is hire to fire. So the first one is encountered when you apply for all this stuff and hear nothing back. The second one is encountered when you work at a place like that restaurant I was with for 18 months and you go from getting 3 or 4 shifts every week that were 7 or 8 hours long, to eventually by the end of it a 5 hour shift here, a 4 hour shift there, once a week, and then you get even crazier, a 4 hour shift every 3 weeks. Just stupid stuff. And then this other one is again falls into the this is what they do. This is what these monsters that run these companies like to do. They hire a bunch of people and then give them an extremely unreasonable amount of time to learn something, and then toss them out, onto the next body. But what kills me about this stuff is that they like it. They like the revolving door. Oh, we gave people uniforms until so many of them would either quit or get fired in the first 2 weeks. Well, maybe if people are like in mass being gotten rid of in the first week or 2 weeks, there's something wrong with your business. Like, is it really a victory for a company to just have a whole bunch of employees just, oh yeah, I worked there for like 2 days and then they fired me. I worked there for 5 days and they fired, like that's really an accomplishment. That's something to be proud of, to just like casually mention to new hires. It makes me sick to my stomach. It really does. Because I don't know what else I can really do. Like, I know I'll go and apply for some stuff, maybe you'll get an interview here or there. Hell, maybe you'll even get hired here or there. But guess what? You're going to run into those same two problems where in those first couple of weeks, if you don't, hell, I shouldn't even say first couple of weeks, in those first handful of shifts, if you don't perform to the degree that they like, and man, getting chewed out by the owner on the second day, it was, I mean, you really would think I'd been working there for a week or a month already. We called you 20 times. Like, yeah, well, maybe I didn't know how to use this damn phone I've literally never used before. And that's why I was actually also going to say that there's another component of this, which is what I call set up to fail. So, like when I mentioned these shifts, 3 shifts, right? Well, today would have been the third one, but I said to hell with it. You have 3 shifts split across 3 weeks, right? You have 2 shifts 5 days apart, and then the second and third have like some 10 or 11 day difference. And these shifts are split so far apart that realistically there is a chance, especially if a person hasn't done this type of job before, there's a chance that whatever stuff they learned in that first day or second day, there's a good chance it's going to not be retained. Again, not because the person wants to forget it, but they're used so sparingly that they couldn't retain something that they haven't done in 10 days, right? A third of a month. And I want to ask the question, who the hell can expect someone to work as good at a job as someone who's been there for weeks or months after working there for 2 days? Like, I'd love to know. Because, I look at the job, I say, all right, you're delivering stuff, make sure it's in the right place, go to this address. Doesn't sound too difficult, right? But, of course, I'm expecting, when I first was given the 4 shifts back to back that they, took 75% of, okay, I'll work this day and then maybe it won't be too great, but the next day I'll try again, and the next day after that you can try even more, and eventually with the retention of it and doing it over and over again, you learn to work at the pace that they would like. But these companies don't believe in training. That's why you can go from written exams and all the rest of that crap to being thrown out into a car by yourself and driving around alone technically for 10 hours, with the exception of when they want to scold you and stare at you on the camera that records you all day. That's your assistants. And then of course, even though they're the ones that made sure you didn't get any training before being thrown out there, they'll scold you for your lack of knowledge about the things you're doing. Although, in spite of the fact that they were aware you had never done this before they hired you. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is another scummy business practice. And I just hope things, I shouldn't even say this, but I hope things improve. I don't like not working. I don't. I feel like I'm almost in some sort of speed run of jobs of just, okay, let me be at this one for a few days. This is garbage. Let me try another one. Okay, this one's trash. Okay, let me try another one, because they're doing that. They have you work there for a couple of days, and then if you're not to the degree that they like, then they toss you. And man, it's incredible to to sit there and have someone telling you about how, we don't think this is a good fit, and it's like, are you serious? It's been 2 shifts. I've only worked here twice, and I'm hearing about this might not be the career path. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? Because as bad as that restaurant was when they started, and I was getting my 3 shifts or 4 shifts every week, guess what? I learned how to do whatever they were telling me to do within that first week or that second week. They didn't go, here's a shift Monday and then one Friday and then 2 Fridays from now. But that's why I said the part-time jobs are a cancer. And when you put hire to fire on a part-time job, that means that your chances of not learning something in the amount of time they'd like increases, which also adds to the chances that you're going to get tossed out of there. But yeah, this is just another American employment horror story. Just more terror from the employers, more lies, more unrealistic fantasies of what an employee is supposed to be, and it'll be real fun to watch them continue their fruitless search for the perfect person that can learn how to do all this crap in a number of days that you couldn't even fill up one hand with. Maybe the next place I work for will get mad at me because I didn't know how to do everything in the first 24 hours of being an employee. Maybe they'll say when you go home you should also practice doing this thing and be as proficient as people who've been here for months or years. Yeah, I really would love to know what job expects you to be able to do something as proficiently as people who have been working there for weeks or months after you've only worked there for 2 days. I mean, like, it is a joke.